Today is the final day of Hispanic Heritage Month, and before it ends, we wanted to take a closer look at why it's so important. Today, we celebrate the final day of Hispanic Heritage Month.
One of the opportunities of Hispanic Heritage Month is to battle the ignorance.
Professor Luis Martínez-Fernández tells me the observation began as Hispanic Heritage Week on September 15th, 1968. 20 years later, in 1988, the 7-day period expanded to a 30-day celebration of Hispanic culture.
We're talking about 62 million people, according to the 2020 census, who are Hispanic Latino, and that represents 18.75% of the population.
Martínez-Fernández says that's a growth of over 10 million people from the previous census, making Hispanics the fastest growing population in our country. It's a group made up of multiple races, religions, and languages.
We have a sizable population, some of whom are first language Maya speakers in places like Maryland.
Hispanics, also known as Latinos, track their family roots back to over 20 countries across the globe. Alejandro Osorio and his mother immigrated from Colombia over 30 years ago in search of a better life. The single mother defied the odds, opening her own restaurant called Arepa Lady.
Yeah, the funny thing is my mom doesn't have a culinary background. She didn't really cook much. My mom was a lawyer back in Colombia, a judge. She did, various works in the government. But due to the violence and instability in Colombia, she came over,
becoming a pillar in the community for others in transition.
You would see like immigrants that were missing back home, and they would just sit down with my mom eating an arepa, talking about back home. And, they had that mother figure in her.
An accomplishment worthy of celebration because, as Martínez-Fernández points out, Hispanic Heritage Month is not only about shining a light on famous Latinos in our country, but also those making a difference daily.
This is how I describe myself. I'm Argentine American with a Mexican heart, and I'm born, raised, and still living on the island of Manhattan.
Like Dina Lior, who created her business La Sirena Mexican Folk Art to celebrate her passions and support artists in Mexico.
Whatever I could do to help support by buying from them to continue the traditions of folk art, because to me it makes my heart sing.
Or Silvia Orozco of Austin, Texas, who along with two fellow artists saw a need.
In 1984, here in Austin, Texas, there wasn't really any kind of space or gallery or museum dedicated to Latinx.
The trio created the Mex Arte Museum, which 39 years later still provides a platform for Latino artists from all over the world.
I think one way to expand our knowledge and our views on the world is to learn through culture.
So as we wrap up this year's Hispanic Heritage Month, Professor Martínez-Fernández has one request.
Think of us as you would think of any other group. We have poets and we have novelists and we have philosophers and we have world-class architects who have contributed to the landscape in many cities in this country.